Hello, this is Flip Nicklin. Welcome to Humpback Chronicles. We are still in southeast Alaska, a place where people think about humpback whales spending their summers. And that's part of the story, where we think of humpback whales in Maui, where it's mating and calving that's going on. When you think about humpback whales up here, it's feeding. It's doing the work, eating krill or small fish. And if they're not successful up here eating krill, small fish, and what they're eating up here, they're not going to have the energy to go south and do mating and calving where we look at them in Hawaii. This week's guest is John Moran, NOAA scientist, to talk about humpback whales and what they eat and the issues of feeding humpback whales in Alaska and beyond. John is a friend and neighbor in Juneau, Alaska, works at the NOAA laboratories up here. Welcome, John. Tell us about feeding humpback whales.
Thanks, Flip. I'm interested in what humpback whales are eating while they're in Alaska. We've been studying humpback whale diet in Prince William Sound, Sitka Sound, and Lynn Canal since 2006. Sometimes it's easy to figure out what the whales are eating. The fish just seem to jump right out of the water. Other times it's more challenging, especially if they're feeding at depth. We use fish finders, skim the surface for scales, and analyze whale scat. That's whale poo. We've had some interesting findings. Whales in Prince William Sound really like to eat herring. In Southeast, they have more of a mixed diet. Krill, herring, and other small forage fish make up the menu. Forage fish are small schooling fish such as herring, capelin, or sand lance. They're an important link between the primary production of phytoplankton and the upper trophic levels, like fish, marine mammals, and seabirds. In 2015, we saw major changes across the Gulf of Alaska. The marine heat wave, known as the Blob, wiped out a lot of the forage fish and plankton. This had major impacts on humpback whales across the Gulf of Alaska. Other species were impacted as well. There were seabird die-offs. Pacific salmon numbers declined. Pacific cod moved out of the Gulf of Alaska. It struck the food chain from top to bottom. For humpbacks, the impact was obvious. We saw skinny whales, fewer whales at the traditional feeding areas, fewer calves, more whales washed up dead on the beaches than in previous years. The heat wave lasted from 2014 through 2016 and showed up again in 2019. Whales were working harder for less food. Poor feeding conditions in Alaska resulted in fewer calves being seen in Hawaii, as well as lower whale numbers in Hawaiian waters. During the winter of 2019 and 2020 in Hawaii, things seemed to be looking brighter. Whale numbers were up, and there seemed to be a baby boom of calves in Hawaiian waters. In the spring and summer of 2020, we saw these calves returning to the waters of southeast Alaska. They looked happy and healthy. However, in Prince William Sound, things looked bleak. The whales didn't return. We didn't see an increase in calf numbers. We don't know what happened to these whales. Did they go somewhere else? Did they die? We're uncertain. We're collaborating with Ted Cheeseman and his Happy Whale program to get at some of these questions. In the past 5 years, we've seen a lot of changes in the North Pacific. Warm water events, southern species showing up, typical of the California current. We're not really sure where all this is going. We hope to continue our monitoring efforts and collaborate with other scientists to figure out what's going on in the North Pacific, especially with regards to humpback whales. Just when you think you have them figured out, they kind of throw you a curveball. Thanks, Flip, for giving me this opportunity to talk about our work on feeding humpbacks in Alaska and how it relates to what you're seeing in Hawaii. Hope to see you at Whale Tales soon.
Thank you, John. I'm still in Auk Bay, and it's really pretty nice to be here in the winter, and hopefully on Humpback Chronicles over the next few weeks we'll talk to other folks who are up here and looking at whales, not just in the summer, but also looking at them and seeing what they're doing in the winter. Thanks again. And thank you all for your support. Bye-bye.